Welcome to the channel, Infinite Exploit, where we learn and have fun. Let's get started and Brody, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Love you guys.
Now we're going to learn about Java. Java is an awesome programming language and oftentimes used to develop Android applications. Now, instead of compiling to machine code like C or C++, it compiles into bytecode that can run on any operating system. So first thing you want to do is you want to download Visual Studio Code. This is a text editor that I like to use because it comes with auto-completion and syntax highlighting. So that way, it makes programming a lot easier. Now, you can do this in a regular notepad or text editor, but it's definitely easier with this. And I also recommend getting this so we can compile the code. You go to Java, it's the Java SDK or JDK, and you can go ahead and download it depending on what operating system that you're running. Now, once you get this installed, you'll go ahead and open up Visual Studio Code. Now, I already started out typing the code. I went ahead and declared a class. So a class is just a container for one or more related functions. So think about a store, and you have a lot of similar items in the same aisle. That's kind of what a class is. And I named it class main. Now, you want to name your class the same that you name your file. So I have this name main.java. You're going to do the .java extension here with your Java program. Now, I do want to let you know that when you're naming classes, you want to use the Pascal naming convention. That's when the first letter is uppercase, right? And then the rest is lower. So we done downloaded the Java development kit. Now we're going to demonstrate the code. So what ends up happening is you're going to use your public method. This just means that you can use this code outside of the class. So you can use it outside of this main class. We're going to use static. Now, static is a different option. This just means it's part of the class. Void means it's not going to return anything. This is our main function, and it's going to take parameters or arguments. And that's just going to take in a string. So it's going to take in a string of text. And how do we print this text? So we're going to use a method. We're going to use a system class, right? So we can go system, we'll tab over, do system, and we can use dot out print, dot print line, right? And we can do an open parentheses, and we can do quotations because we want to put a string inside of there, right? So just to let you know, we use the system class, right? And we're going to use different operators. So inside this system class, we're using the print line method, and we can pass in the parameters with the string. So we're going to put a string is a sequence of characters. So I'm going to say hello from infinite, right? And we always want to close it with semicolon. So that's how we print text. Now, let me go ahead and save this, right? Let me go ahead and save this. Control S. That's my shortcut, but you can do file save if you like. And I already got it saved to this folder here, this Java folder. So ls, you can see, is main.java. Now, so how do we test it and how do we run it? So once you install by using this command here, java, and we'll use our file name, and it's going to compile it. And when we do ls, we can see we have a .class file there. So basically, the compiler generates a .class file, and that contains the bytecode, right? So couple things we discussed so far. We have our class name main, and the class is just a container. Now we can also define our own custom class, and these are just blueprints for objects, and we'll talk about objects a little later. All right, so what we can do is we can actually organize our classes into packages, right? So now let's talk about variables. So for example, what if we had multiple lines of code like this, right? And I say tired all right, so what if we're writing out code like this, right? And this will work. So this is the thing too. Once we compile the code, we still can run it. So I just resaved it, and we'll run it by doing Java main, not main class, but our Java file. Let me show you right quick. And see, it's printing out those lines, right? So before we did that, it would just print out this line. So what I'm going to talk about is variables. So variables are used to temporarily store data in a computer's memory. So right here, we have a couple lines like you see. It say hello from infinite. Infinite is tired. Infinite wants to sleep at 8. 8 is too early. So what if we want to change this name? Now we could go through and change it individually here, but that could be a tedious task. So this is where variables come to play, because what if we had 100 or 1,000 lines of code? Then you won't want to go through every single line, right? So if I want to declare a variable, this is what we'll do. We have to give Java a couple pieces of information. We have to let it know what type of variable we're trying to store. So if we're doing a string, like we said, that's like plain text. It's a line of characters. I'll do string, and I'm gonna do name is equal. And then we'll do quotations, and we put infinite, right? Not sure why it's doing autocomplete like that, but let me just paste it in there like this. All right. So if we wanted to print this name, then I could actually do hello, right? And I can do plus, and I can do the name operator right there like that. So let's save it. Let's recompile it. Well, let's run it because we already compiled it. As you can see, it still prints it out. Let me just do this for a space. Put a space like that, right? It still prints it out. So I can go through here and I can change this, right? I can change this and do the plus. That's a pending text. So that's a way we can add it together. That's concatenizing, right? So instead of putting in the name individually, it's in its name variable. And you can name this variable whatever you like, as long as it's not a keyword and stuff like that, okay? And you want to make kind of like descriptive to something that you're trying to describe. Just want to make sure it's meaningful, okay? You don't want to make sure it starts with a number or have a space between or anything like that. And best practice when it comes to naming variables is using camel case. So basically camel case is when you have the first beginning of a word lowercase, and then if I did a new word, like I say, what if I said name me or something like that? A new word would be uppercase, okay? So, and this is a string variable. So we have a lot of different data types in Java. So let me go ahead and change this everywhere and recompile so I can show you. So name plus, all right, resave it. Let's run it. We'll put a space right here as well. And put a space right here. So that way it looks a little better. All right. So what if I want to change this name? What if I want to change it to like IX, right? If I save it, it's going to change it everywhere in the code. See? That's where variables come to play. And that's a string variable. Sometimes it's called a string literal, okay? And what if I wanted to have quotation mark in here? If I do this, it's not going to work. So let me go ahead and save it and show you. You see this? It's giving an error. So what we can do here is we can use an escape character, which is a backslash. Right? We can use a backslash, and that way we can print. If we wanted to print, if we want to print text and we want to have the quotation mark in the text, right? Now, this is the thing I want to go over with you too. Let's talk about integers and numbers. So, what if I wanted to assign 8 to a variable? Now, since it's a number, I'm going to do int since it's an integer, right? And I'm going to make it number, and then I can assign it to 8. That's a number. Now, the thing with integers is this right here does not have the quotation marks. If I put quotation marks on it, it's going to be considered a string, like a character, right? Now, let me show you how we would change this. The same way that we just did, right? Instead of calling it by, instead of calling it like this, I'll call it by its name, right? Its variable name, which is a container like we talked about. Let me go ahead and save this. And let's test the code, right? And as you can see, it works. I'm gonna just put a little space like this, right? Now, it's a couple different data types. So we talked about strings, which is characters. We talked about integers, which is numbers. Now, what if we want to talk about decimals? So we can use another data type called float, and we can use a double, right? So let's use double for right now, and I'm going to call it decnum. That's what I'll call this one, so I can represent it like a decimal number, and we'll call this 5.0, right? We have another way we can do the data type as well called character. It's char. And this is short for character. So instead of having a full multiple characters, like I have IX and multiple characters, this is just for one single character, like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, etc. Right? So I'll call it character. I do fave char, so short for favorite character, and I'll call it C. Right? All right. So we talked about doubles, floats, char as well. Now we'll be able to print these out also, just like we just printed. You can do SOUT, and you can do tab, and it's going to go ahead and autocomplete that for you. So what if we wanted to print out that variable as well? So let's run it and see. Control save it. So it prints out that variable as well, right? And we can print out all of these variables. So if I do SO, let's do system dot out print line. I can print out this variable too, right? I can print out this variable. All right, so we do another one. I could print out, yeah, so we print with this, I can save it and it'll print out everything that we have there. So it print out these variables, right? Now, let's talk about arithmetic operator. So this is just basic math. So we do our comments like this. So I'll give you an example here. Plus, minus, divide, percent sign, that's modulus. So that's give you the remainder, asterisk for multiplication. So for example, let's say I want to add two numbers. I can do int number 2 is equal to, let's say 9. And I can actually, let's see here. So I actually can add those two numbers. So I can do number plus number 2, right? So let's run it. And as you see, it gives 17. So if I do minus, it should give us a negative 1, right? We can do division. We can do multiplication. Show you modulus, right? So those are arithmetic operators. Now, what if we wanted to do that brings me to this point. When we're looking at data types, we also can do Boolean data type, which is it's basically going to declare if something is true or false. Okay, that's a Boolean, and that's going to have us pivot into comparison operators. So, for example, let's say number, this is one of them, is equal. Number is equal to number 2. So number is 8. Does that equal 9? So it should print false. All right, right. It printed false. Now, if we did this one, this is a comparison operator. We can do is not equal. So that should be true, as you can see. Another one is we can do less than. So is this number less than that number? That's true. All right, we can do greater than. Is that number greater than that other number? No. So that's false, right? We also have less than or equal to. So let's run that one. We have greater than or equal to. So we also can do this. So what if we say this? We can also do this. We want to specify another condition, 2 ampersands. And let's say if char is equal to C. Let's see, does it print? What that print? False. Because this is not right. This is, if we do this, because we know this character equals this. So if this is less than and this is equal to C, that should be good, right? That's true. So we can also use the or operator with 2 lines. Sometimes that's called a pipe. So I could say is tall, that's false. Or fave chart equals C. So this is false, but this is true. So that should be true as well. So we also can increment, right? And the way we increment is we can use this keyword, number plus plus, or whatever our variable name is plus plus when it comes to integers or numbers, right? So if I increment, if I increment this number 8 should go to number 9. Number 9 should go to number 10 if I do this, right? So let me do, let me print number 2. Then I incremented it. Let's see what we got. So as you see, it went to number 10 because it's number 9, but I did it this way. Now, equals number 2 plus 1. That's the longhand version of it, right? But we don't want to write that out every time. So that's why we do plus plus. Now, I also can do minus minus, right? And make it 8. So when I print it now, it should be 8, right? So now we're going to talk about getting input from the user. So how do we do that? So what we're going to do is we're going to use the scanner method in the scanner class. So let me show you how we do that. So we're going to print out text in the console. So we'll do scanner. So there's going to be a couple things we got to give Java. So we're going to do scanner because we're using the scanner object. And so we can give it input or we can just name it scanner, right? It'll be simple. New scanner. So since we're getting input from the terminal or the console, we're going to do system.in. So the scanner class does not exist yet. So we need to import it. So the way we do it is we'll do import java.util.scanner. So this just means that we're importing the class, okay? All right, so what we're gonna do, let's ask it for some information. So we'll do, right, our shorthand, we're gonna say, who are you, right? Let's do it that way. And what we'll say, we'll do scanner. That next line, it takes strings from the input from the user, right? And we can make this a variable by doing string name equals this, right? And let's do, let me do it again. So if we do, yeah, and we'll do you. All right, let's do this. As you see here, I'm sorry, I named my variable name, so I print name and save it. And I put a little space between here so that way I can keep up. All right, so string name. So who are you? String name variable. String print line name. All right. Oh yeah, I already named that variable here. So let me name this one name2. So that way it's that way it's not confusing this. Okay, let's do this. So who are you? And I put infinite, right? So that's how you get input from the user. So what if we did is, what if we didn't have this part? What if we did that? It should be on the same line, right? As you see, it didn't put it on a separate line. That's why we do that, right? So we do have some format specifiers here in Java as well. So for example, if you're familiar with C programming language, you can do, let's say, printf, and I can go ahead and specify, I can specify names with S as a string, right? So I can do hello, and this is going to be specifying the name variable, like that, right? Yeah, let's see what I did. Let's see, let me try it like this. Name2 equals the input, string name2, system.out.printf. Let's see what I did. Here, that way it separates it. Okay, so it should be good now, right? And it says hello infinite, right? So if I do, let me do, so y'all can see it on a separate line right quick. We'll do this. This is basically a new line is what it's specifying, okay? Save it, let's run it. Infinite. Yo, it say hello. And I can put this on a new line by doing this, right? All right. So what if we wanted to take in an integer? Like, what if we wanted to say, how old are you? So let's change this question to how old are you, right? So instead of string name, let's change this to int, and we'll call it age, right? And I can make this specifier d, because when we do %d, that's specifying an integer, right? You are. Let's save it. Let's go. Oh, next line. I should have did scanner.next int, right? Because we're taking in an integer. All right. Let's save it. Let's go. How old are you? 45. Yep. Let me make this smaller. Let's go up so you can see. Did you see it? You are 45. And I could put this stuff on a new line as well. So now let's talk about for loops. So I'm going to give you a quick example of how we'll use for loops. So what if we wanted to say hello? What if we wanted to say, let me take this off. Take this off. What if we wanted to say hello universe? Right? What if we wanted to say that? What if we wanted to say that? 30. Right? Let me take these off as well. What if we wanted to say this 5 times? Now I could do this, right? I could do that, and then we run it, and it say it like that. But this is be a perfect candidate for a for loop, so we can go through iterations. Now the way we do this is we're going to do a couple things. We're going to do the for, keyword, and we're going to say for integer, we want an integer, I, short for index, because usually when you have an indexes, you start with 0, right? So we're going to make it equal 0. That's how we count in programming languages. And I'm going to say I less than 5 because we want to go through it 5 times. So it goes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And when it's 5, it won't print. So it'll give me 5 of them. And I'm going to do I plus plus. That's going to increment. That's going to increment, right? So when we do the for loop, we need to specify, got to do an open and close curly bracket. So we'll put this in between there, right? And let's save it. And it should print it out the same way we just seen, as you see. Now that's neater compared to what we just did. And a lot of times they might use different letters like I, J, K, you know, and this is a Boolean expression, right? Because it's true or false. Is it less than 5? Yes or no? True or false? Now, talk about arrays. So array stores a list of things that are similar. So that can be like a list of people, a list of numbers. And when we print array, we print it by the name. It'll print in a memory space there. So let me show you how we can initialize an array. So I can do int. So we're doing an integer value. I'm gonna name it numbers. And I can do open and close curly brackets. Let's do 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Like that, right? Now, snap. I don't know how that got down there like that. All right. So how do I access these specific elements in the array? Well, like we mentioned, this is how we count. So this will be the first index. That'll be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So when we count backwards, it's a little different. It's going to be -1, right? -2, right? -3, -4, so forth. So if I wanted to print this out, I'm sorry, let me SOT. If I wanted to print out a specific number or index, I can do numbers. And if I do 0, it should print out 2 to the screen. As you see, print out 2. What if? All right, so in this lesson, we're going to talk about conditional statements. So this means if something is true, you do something, or else you do this. Now, I'll give you an example of how we do that here in a second. So let's declare another variable. I'm going to do an integer. I'm going to call it age, and I'm going to make it equal to 21. So what can we do with this variable here? So what we can do is we can do an if statement, and we'll use the if command. And I'll do if age is greater than or equal to 21. That's what we'll do, right? And in between this, we're going to do open and close curly brackets. And then this is what we're going to have it do. All right, I do system.out.print. What do we want to do? You can drink beer. All right, it should just print that. Yeah, you can drink beer. Let's comment this out so we can just focus on this line for right now. Right? You can drink beer. But what if they're not 21? Then we'll do an else. And we'll give it another condition. We'll say system. And we'll say you cannot drink beer. And this is if you're not 21. So we already specified the age is 21, right? Let's make them 18. And it should say you cannot drink beer. You cannot drink beer, right? So this is like the basic of conditional statement. So if something is true, you do something, else you do something else, okay? So lastly, we're going to talk about while loop. So basically the way it works is while something is true, we're going to do something. So we have some variables already declared here. So the way we'll do a while loop is we'll say while, for example, let's say number is less than 10, right? And then we're going to do a condition. And I'm going to have it print system dot out dot print line, and I'm going to say test. It's going to print that out. So this is what's considered an infinite loop, because this is the thing. This number 8 is less than 10. So it's going to continue to print text as long as that's true. It's never going to be greater than 10 unless we do this number, remember this, and we increment it. So this will stop it once it gets to a certain point. So it's only 2 times because it's go 8 and it goes 9. And when it's 10, 10 is not greater than 10 or less than 10. 10 is equal to 10. So if I do equals, it should do 3 of them, 3 of these texts, because 10 will count as well, right? So that's how you would do a while loop.